The sun burned bright above a small countryside road as a young boy named Armin kicked a pebble ahead of him, the dusty path trailing behind like a quiet companion. His backpack bounced against his shoulders while he wandered farther from town, trying to escape the weight of loneliness settling in his chest. His father, once his hero, had left 2 years ago and never came back, leaving Armin and his mother struggling through life's storms without answers. Walking these endless fields was the only place Armin could breathe. But he never expected that today he would stumble upon a secret that would change not only his life, but the hearts of thousands of hardened men. If you believe every person deserves a second chance no matter their past, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness right now. Your support spreads real hope. Armin wiped sweat from his forehead and continued along the trail that led deeper into the countryside forest. The quiet hum of birds and the rustle of leaves usually soothed him, but suddenly the silence broke with a faint metallic clank. Armin froze. His eyes scanned the trees, until he spotted something ahead, a massive figure slumped against a trunk. As he stepped closer, his heart raced. He could see thick chains binding a man's wrists behind his back and looping around his chest, locking him to the tree. The man looked like a fallen warrior, tattoos spread across his muscular arms, leather vest torn and marked with the name Hellions MC, a notorious motorcycle club feared across the state. His beard was rough, his face bruised as if he had survived a fight with the world itself. Fear gripped Armin's spine. He had heard the whispers these bikers were monsters who rode in packs, men who laughed in the face of danger. Yet there was something different here. The man's breaths were shallow, each one a struggle. Sweat clung to his skin, and a desperate pain lived behind his eyes. He wasn't frightening, he was suffering. Armin's instinct pushed him forward, but his mind screamed to run home. The man finally looked up, and instead of fire or rage in his voice, there was only exhaustion. The sight confused Armin. Villains weren't supposed to look broken. Armin stepped a bit closer, examining the thick locks. Whoever chained this man here wanted him to stay helpless. The thought gnawed at Armin's sense of justice. He remembered his father's fading voice, telling him to always help those who cannot help themselves even if the world judged them as unworthy. The man's gaze drifted to the small metal water bottle at Armin's hip. Armin hesitated, but his hand instinctively moved. He uncapped it and brought the bottle up so the man could drink. Water spilled at first as the man struggled to lift his head, but soon he gulped down what he could. When he finished, he looked at Armin not like an enemy but like a boy who had just saved his life. Armin knew he had to find someone who could help. He promised silently that he would return and sprinted through dirt and grass toward the main road. When he reached town, breathless and trembling, he searched for anyone who looked strong enough to help a biker in chains. His eyes landed on a small roadside diner, where several motorcycles were lined up outside. Their chrome glinted in the daylight like guardians of danger. The riders gathered by their bikes wearing the same symbol on their jackets that the chained man wore. Armin's heart nearly stopped. These were Hellions, the same gang he was always warned about. Mustering a courage he didn't know he had, Armin stumbled toward them. The riders turned, confused and wary. Armin pointed back toward the forest, his voice shaking as he explained that one of their own was tied up and left to die. The bikers exchanged looks of shock and anger, then faced the child with seriousness that sent a chill through the air. They fired up their engines with roaring thunder and motioned for Armin to guide them. Armin climbed onto the back of one bike, clutching the rider's leather vest as they surged down the path. The forest swallowed the sound of engines. As they arrived at the tree where Armin had found the man, the bikers jumped off, weapons drawn, scanning for whoever had done this. Their leader, a tall man with a silver beard and sharp eyes, rushed to the chained biker's side. Rage twisted his expression, but there was sorrow within it too. With swift movements, they cut the chains, supporting the injured man as he nearly collapsed. Armin watched, unsure if he should flee or stay. The leader turned to him, his expression thawing slightly. He asked for the boy's name. When Armin told him, the leader placed a heavy hand on his small shoulder and simply nodded. What followed was a silent understanding that Armin had done something incredible, something no adult had dared to do. The bikers loaded the wounded man onto a motorcycle and offered Armin a ride back to town on the way. Armin learned the man's name was Miles, and he wasn't the monster the world painted him to be. He had refused to follow a darker path some former gang members were forcing on the club, and they had punished him for his integrity. Miles was a man who had been trying to change, to guide the younger Hellions away from crime and toward brotherhood and honor. But transformation always attracts enemies. Armin returned home that evening, hoping the world had shifted just a little, but he didn't expect it to shift as much as it soon would. 2 days passed, and Armin's mind replayed the event over and over, convinced that his help may not have been enough. On the third afternoon, as Armin walked home from school, the sound of engines once again grew louder from down the street. Turning the corner, he froze. A flood of motorcycles, hundreds at first. Then nearly 2,000 rolled through town like an unstoppable wave. The hellions had returned, but this time they weren't just passing by. They were here for him. The formation halted in front of Armin's home. The crowd of fierce riders stood tall beside their bikes, transforming the quiet neighborhood into a scene of awe. The silver-bearded leader stepped forward, Miles beside him with fresh bandages but renewed strength. Miles looked healthier, his gratitude shining brighter than the sun above them. The leader called Armin closer, and then, in front of the massive gathering, he declared that this boy, the small, ordinary boy who believed in kindness, had saved the soul of their brother and reminded thousands of hardened riders that goodness still existed in the world. They presented Armin with a leather vest, small but perfectly crafted, embroidered with the words Honor, Hellion, Protector of Brotherhood. Some riders clapped their gloved hands to their chests in respect. Others lifted their helmets, as if saluting a true warrior. Armin's mother stood at the doorway with tears welling in her eyes, tears of pride, relief, and love for her son who had grown into a hero right before her. Miles bent down and hugged Armin tightly, thanking him for seeing a man in need instead of a monster from rumors. Armin couldn't hold back his own tears anymore. He had spent years feeling small, like the world forgot him after his father left. But today he realized something powerful, that one kind act can echo across lives, transforming strangers into family. The riders revved their engines once more, but they did not leave before promising Armin they would always be around if he or his mother ever needed them. Armin watched them disappear down the long road, not as a gang feared by all, but as protectors carrying a renewed purpose because of him. That night, Armin lay in bed holding the vest to his chest. He thought of how sometimes the people who look the scariest are the ones who need kindness the most. He learned courage isn't being fearless. It's stepping forward even when your heart is pounding like a drum. If this emotional journey touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Light of Kindness. Your support helps more people believe in compassion and new beginnings. Before we end, here is a special request. Comment below whether you believe that one small act of kindness can change someone's entire life. As the stars shone outside his window, Armin finally drifted to sleep, knowing that sometimes the right thing to do may be the scariest, but it can awaken hope in thousands. And on that quiet night, the roar of motorcycles lived on in his dreams, reminding him he was never alone again.